All right. Hello and welcome to CGN Live. Sorry for being a little late there. Hopefully, some guys trickle in here. Um, yes, this is CGN Live. My name is Taylor of Taylor Talks Comics, and we are here to talk about comics. We have. Sorry, I'm trying to set up my thing here. Every week on CGN Live, we go over all the comics and graphic novels that will be due out next week on our website, cheapgraphicnovels.com. So look forward to that. So all the books we talk about tonight will go on sale on September the 25th that evening. Make sure to follow us on social media at on Twitter and Instagram at CheapGN. Those will tell you the minute that our books go on sale on the evenings on Monday evenings. Whenever Max, the guy that owns Cheap Graphic Novels, sends me a text to tell me that the books are ready to go, that they're ready to be on sale, I put up the post on social media to let you guys know the minute that you guys can order them. Also, you can follow us on Facebook at if you search for Cheap Graphic Novels. We have a weekly newsletter that goes out every Monday to talk about all the books that are also coming out that week. A little tip on that. Also, with that newsletter, the email list, if you sign up, you can get notified whenever we have sales going on. We always send out a big email blast to anybody on that chain to let you know when we have certain sales going on. And let me see other plugs. We do this once a week, so make sure you give the thumbs up to the video and subscribe if you haven't already, and let your friends know what we're doing over here. If you're in the chat, if you're rolling in, or if you're watching this at a later date, you can always comment down below if you're watching this on the recorded version. I always try to search for comments and I reply to them if you guys have any questions. If you're watching this live, feel free to chat. Let us know what comic books you've been reading lately. Let us know what books you're excited that are coming out soon. And also ask any questions. I'll be able to answer any questions related to what we have in stock, that sort of thing. But the preamble is over. Let's go ahead and get into the books that will be out next week. So I'll share my screen here. No, I don't want to add item. What is that? What's happening? Hold on a second. They changed up things on me. There we go. All right. So this is the front page of our website. If you want to sign up for the email list that I talked about a minute ago, if you scroll down to the front, just type in cheapgraphicnovels.com. Scroll down to the very bottom, and you'll see join our newsletter today. Enter your email address there. You'll get a confirmation email sent to your inbox. Hopefully your inbox. If not, check your junk folder and confirm that, and then you'll be getting all of our emails. Easy as that. So next week we have 51 books to cover, and let's get started. So up first we have two Golden Age Batman omnibuses coming out next week. The first of which is Volume 1. So this is a big time reprint. This has been out of print for quite a while, but it's finally back into print. This time it does carry a cover price of $124.99. However, if you order with us, if you shop online with Cheap Graphic Novels, you can get this for $74.99. Most of our DC and Marvel books are 40% off the day of release. So it's always a good little tip if you're trying to budget your comic buying list. This is a Volume 1. This includes stuff by Bill Finger, Gardner Fox, Jerry Robinson, and it includes Detective Comics 27 through 56, as well as Batman 1 through 7. So yes, as you may know, Batman debuted in Detective Comics number 27, and then eventually got his own title, Batman, where he's running concurrently in Detective Comics and Batman. In this volume, you will see the debut of Robin, the debut of Joker, Obviously, the debut of Batman and Bruce Wayne, and in his origin story, which is not in that Detective Comics 27. His origin story, I think, is in, I want to say, issue 36 of Detective Comics. Someone correct me if I'm wrong in the comments down below, or in the chat. But I think it's like 36. I think it's like about almost 10 issues after the fact is when he told his origin story where he sees his parents die, and he swears an oath to fight crime in the name of his parents. But yes, so this will be a good book to have if you're into like the history of comics and you want to read the very earliest stories of the Dark Knight. If you've already been collecting these Golden Age omnibuses, or maybe you have the Batman Silver Age omnibus and you want the volume that happens right before that, this is Batman Golden Age Omnibus Volume 10. So this concludes the Golden Age set. It's the final omnibus in the Batman Golden Age series. So then very next volume is that Batman Silver Age Omnibus Volume 1, which came out last year. So in this title, this will be $59.99 if you shop with CGN. Or in this volume, though, you'll see, let's see here. See the Batmarine, Joker and Catwoman are in there. You get to meet Ace the Bat Hound, Mad Hatter, and the Batman of all nations for the first time. It includes full restoration. So it includes Batman 86 through 100 and Detective Comics 211 through 232, along with a brand new foreword by the originator, executive producer of the Batman film franchise, Michael Uslan. Michael Uslan went to college over at Indiana University, which is not too far from where I live. And I've read both of his biographies. He's a really, really interesting fellow. And he bought the film rights to Batman, which wasn't cheap. I think that there's a misconception that he bought them for really cheap and then eventually got it made. It wasn't cheap necessarily, but he did try to shop around Hollywood the idea of making a serious Batman film from 1979 through 1989. And obviously, we know what happened in '89. It finally came out, but for 10 years, he's trying to convince studios that people wanted a serious Batman movie. When all the studios, the only thing they knew about Batman was the Adam West show. So, anyways, the fact that he's writing the intro to this volume, he does know his Batman. And he grew up a diehard comic book fan as well. His biographies are really fascinating if you've not read them. Up next, we have an omnibus from Marvel. This is the Avengers Volume 5. Here's the standard edition cover. Typically, with these Marvel omnibus releases, we get two different covers. You get the standard edition cover and then the direct market variant. Direct market variant just means that those are exclusive to comic book shops, which CGN is a comic book shop. The standard edition is what you'll find at all comic book shops, as well as Amazon and Barnes & Noble, your bookstores. So we have the opportunity to sell both versions, so you get to take your pick. And they're $59.99 a piece, no matter which cover you choose. But this is the Steve Englehart era of the Avengers. It's going to include Avengers 120 through 149, giant size Avengers 1 through 4, and then a couple issues of Fantastic Four, Captain Marvel, Foom in there as well. So this is the first time that this volume has been released. We just saw the reprints of volumes 1 through 4 come out over the summer. This is the first time volume 5 has come out. We do have early artwork by George Perez in here before he leaves for DC Comics. Here's the other cover. Here's the DM cover by Rich Buckler. But yeah, so if you have all 5 volumes of the Avengers omnibuses, you'll have all the way through issue 149 of Avengers, which is really cool. Then we have, we have the Amazing Spider-Man Volume 2 remaster works. So these are the Marvel Masterworks. They also come with 2 different covers. The first cover with the silver border here is the standard edition, and it's going to say Amazing Spider-Man Volume 2 on the spine. The direct market variant down here will say Volume 5 on the spine because it's the 5th volume of the Masterworks. So that's the difference there. But this is $44.99 if you order through CGN, and it includes Amazing Spider-Man 11 through 19 plus the Amazing Spider-Man Annual number 1, which is great stuff. So that's a continuation of the Stan Lee, Steve Ditko era. With both volumes, we'll have all the way, the first 21 stories, if you count Amazing Fantasy 15, 21 stories of Amazing Spider-Man, all done by Stan Lee and Steve Ditko. And these are the remaster works. So these first originally came out. The first volumes came out in like the late 80s. They've now since back. I think they've remastered them a few times, just kind of under the radar. But now they fully have remastered them using original artwork and that sort of thing. So that's what these remaster works are. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, The Last Ronin, Director's Cut hardcover. So we had The Last Ronin released in hardcover. We had the covers, the variant covers released in hardcover because there's so many variant covers. They filled out a whole hardcover of them. Now we're getting the Director's Cut. This will be $34.99 if you order through CGN. And I'm trying to see what the difference is here. Over 75 pages of character designs, concept art, and sketches, as well as parts of the original draft idea. To reveal the development process that led to the. So I know, okay, I'm going to assume, someone let me know if I'm wrong, but I know that after these single issues came out for The Last Ronin, they did director's cut issues. I'm assuming that's what this is a compilation of those director cut issues. But as like a set of 3 books, The Last Ronin, the covers book, and then this would be a really nice set of 3 books to have. Here's a manga, Girl from the Other Side of Seoul. I don't know how to pronounce that. A Run, Deluxe Edition Omnibus Volume 4. These are really beautiful looking books. I've seen them. They're 25% off. This will be $32.24 if you order through us. It's from 7 Seas Entertainment, in Nagabe is the mangaka that does them. This is the final volume. But these are really, really great looking books, really well designed. And there's just 4 of them. So sometimes you can be overwhelmed by manga because there's so many volumes. This one's a small series. Miracle Man, the original epic trade paperback. So don't be confused by this. This is not an epic collection. This is just called the original epic. I've not seen what the spine design looks like on this book, but I'm assuming it just looks more like a complete collection where it has like its own kind of style and design. Like I don't think it'll match up with your epic collections at all. However, this is a big deal. This will be $29.99 if you order through us. And this is Miracle Man. It'll say the original writer right there as for the writer. That's Alan Moore. He's taken his name off the book because of certain things he didn't agree with what Marvel did back in the day, and he doesn't want to associate with them. But his story still stands, and his story is still in here and intact. It does have the new coloring that Marvel had to do. But it sorry, that's got a text message. It does have the new coloring, which some people don't like because the original coloring with who was it? It wasn't Caliber. It was Kamiko. It starts with a C. Who's the original publisher of this? Original publisher. But this is like the groundbreaking deconstructionist superhero story that Alan Moore did way back in the day. One of his earliest works. Not that. That was when it's in Britain. Warrior Magazine. Eclipse Comics. There we go. It was originally published by Eclipse Comics, and they had their own like coloring style or coloring system, and they own the copyright to the color guides for Miracle Man, so they had to recolor everything in here. But I don't think it's bad. Some people do take it a little over the top, and they're like, it's awful. They look terrible. I've read the story in multiple formats with this coloring. Most recently the omnibus format, and I think it looks great. Of course, I am a purist, and I'd love to have the original colors, but we can't. But it doesn't look bad by any means. But it does include the entire story. And this is Alan Moore before Watchmen, before Swamp Thing, and it's like really groundbreaking series of having Miracle Man, who is kind of like he evolved from Captain Marvel, aka Shazam, who we know as today as Shazam. He evolved from that character because back in the day in England, Captain Marvel is a super popular character, but they ran out of stories. They couldn't print anymore, and they lost the copyright and all that stuff. So then they made Marvel Man, their own character, kind of continued on his story with a new name. and then some more rights issues with that, and he became Miracle Man. So he does very much mirror the kind of character of Captain Marvel, but this is deconstruction of superheroes where it's very much suited in real life. And what would happen if oh, there we go. We have some chats here. Richard Fearing, my man, how you doing? Hello. I was actually thinking about purchasing the Miracle Man Omnibus. I would highly recommend it. I actually have it. If you want me to show it off. It's especially if you're a big fan of Alan Moore. Here's the thing though, like since it is a deconstruction of superhero and it is groundbreaking, it's been like people have like remixed that kind of story and redone that story. It's kind of like the Superman gone bad kind of thing. They kind of did that. People have taken pieces from this and done their own spin on it. So if you're a reader, a modern reader, that you have read all these different versions that have kind of mirrored what Alan Moore did, it won't seem brand new and fresh to you. So you kind of have to read it in that context of knowing that this was like early 80s and what Alan Moore was doing in this book was truly not done anywhere else or ever, and take it from there. But even still, I think the story still holds up. It's such a classic comic book story. Alan Moore, he's my favorite writer ever in comics. So I'll read anything he does, but absolutely, I would highly recommend it. What are your thoughts on Fantastic Four Omnibus Volume 1 by John Byrne? I also have that as well. My thoughts are that it's a must read for anyone that wants to read Fantastic Four. It's incredible to me that John Byrne was able to keep the schedule he did, because he was writing and drawing that book. And and at various points he was writing and drawing Alpha Flight, I think, at one point, and then at one point he was doing like basically 2 books a month, 2 issues. He's also writing The Thing for a little bit too, but I love that story. If you're a fan of Lee and Kirby Fantastic Four, then it's a perfect next segue onto that. But it is a little bit, he matures it up a little bit. It's not like it's still, your typical kid friendly magazine or whatever, but the themes in there are a little bit more mature. It's not the hokey Stan Lee dialogue, which I personally love, but it, like, the dialogue itself is up the ante a little bit, because it is John Byrne coming off of X-Men, because he was doing X-Men with Chris Claremont, and they had a dispute. John Byrne wanted to take over X-Men, the writing and drawing duties, but Chris Claremont was like, no, I'm not leaving. So then John Byrne told Jim Shooter, okay, give me a different book then. And they gave him Fantastic Four. So it's him coming off of X-Men. So if you think about those early issues of X-Men that John Byrne and Chris Claremont did, where they did Days of Future Past and the Dark Phoenix saga, like those really deep stories, John Byrne comes from that and does similar things with Fantastic Four. It's a really great run. I highly recommend that. Hope they reprint the Spider Omni by John Byrne as well. That one is a little sticky though, because that one, and I haven't read that run, so I'm not super familiar, but from what I've heard, I think the way I understand it is that they were going back and forth with issues on Spider-Man back then, between like Amazing and Adjectiveless Spider-Man, but those only include the John Byrne ones, so it's almost like you're getting every other issue, every other story. So I've heard it, like, from a reading experience, that the John Byrne omnibus isn't very good, that people are hoping that they kind of remap it in a better format, with maybe having not only John Byrne's name on it to make it a better reading experience. I'm not entirely sure about that, but highly recommend Miracle Man and highly recommend Fantastic Four Omnibus by John Byrne. Omnibus 1 and 2. And if you're wanting the companion, The Thing is a perfect companion. The Thing Omnibus that came out last year is the perfect companion to Fantastic Four Volume 1 and 2 by Byrne, because I'm sure you've heard, but I mean, there was a time when Thing left the Fantastic Four and She-Hulk took a spot. That happens, I'm pretty sure it happens between volumes 1 and 2 of the Fantastic Four omnibuses. So the Thing omnibus takes place at that time. You get to go see what Thing went off and did during that time when he left the Fantastic Four. And John Byrne writes, but doesn't draw, but he writes the first 20 issues, I think, of that run. So that's a perfect companion if you want like those 3 omnibuses. Fantastic Four is my favorite Marvel comic team ever, or comic heroes, and The Thing is my favorite Marvel superhero of all time. So that's why I'm so excited to pitch that to you. But take that for what it is. Yes, this is a Miracle Man though. $29.99. This is like the more affordable way to read the story. It won't have all the extra process stuff because the omnibus had all this. Had everything that's in this paperback, but it also had like twice as many pages because all the rest was like process stuff, like scripts, behind the scenes kind of stuff, which I love. The kind of history of comics. So it didn't bother me at all. But if you're wanting just the story in an affordable format, this is the way to go, and it'll be $29.99. Then we have an Avengers Epic Collection, Yesterday's Quest. This will be $26.99 if you order through us. This is Jim Shooter and George Perez era. And this is the Korvac saga. Okay, so this is issues 167 through 188. So a little bit after the omnibus that'll also be coming out this week. That omnibus ends at 149. So a little bit after, but this is the Jim Shooter, George Perez era, which is highly touted. I think of all of Jim Shooter's writing, people will cite his Avengers stuff as his best stuff. Especially the Korvac saga was super popular. But, you know, some people love Jim Shooter. Some people, I think he's a great editor. Especially if, like, just go on a little tangent. Jim Shooter's, well, he was editor of Marvel, because he gets a lot of flack. So I always try to defend him whenever I can. While he was the editor of Marvel, we had Daredevil by Frank Miller. We had Walt Simonson's Thor run. We had John Byrne's Fantastic Four. And we had Chris Claremont's X-Men continue on, because it started before Jim Shooter was the editor, but it continued on with the great stories while he was editor, like the Dark Phoenix saga and Days of Future Past. So, like, the most iconic stories of Marvel history that weren't from the Silver Age were during Jim Shooter's era. So he was a great editor. This is the Pacific Comics companion softcover from Tomorrow's Publishing, $23.96, will be 20% off. And Pacific Comics was a publisher of comics that they published The Rocketeer, Captain Victory, Miss Mystic, Gru the Wanderer, Star Slayer, and more. Star Slayer is the early Walt Simonson comic, which the aforementioned Walt Simonson. But Rocketeer is the one I always recognize it for, Pacific Comics, because Rocketeer, that comic is amazing. IDW just reprinted the hardcover slipcase, which is like a must-buy. Just really great pulp comics. But Tomorrow's Publishing does a lot of these historical coffee table comic book stuff, where you get to learn a lot about the comics history. This one is about an entire publisher, Pacific Comics. So you get to learn about them. Then we have a manga. This is Killing Stalking Deluxe Edition, Volume 4 graphic novel. This will be $22.49. It is by Seven Seas Entertainment. Then we have Alley Oop, Back to the Moon trade paperback. This is the Alley Oop comic newspaper strip by V.T. Hamlin. This will be $22 even if you order through us. And it's about time-traveling caveman rockets to the moon in a Cold War race. Also featuring Ula's mission to an ancient alien monument, unwanted immigrants in Mu, and the rescue of an adorable tiger kitten. That cover, when I was looking through these before the show, that one really struck me as it looks like a fun adventure comic. And I've never read Alley Oop, but I know it's like one of those highly touted historical newspaper strips. So I might have to try that out. Let me know in the comments if you've read Alley Oop. Then we have Homunculus Omnibus Volume 2. It's another manga. It'll be $20.99. I'm sorry. 25% off. Ghosted Compendium. This is the comic series by Joshua Williamson, who's been a big deal over at DC these days. He also wrote Nailbiter, the horror comic from, was that Image? Nailbiter? Which just got a compendium recently, I think, or is getting one. I can't remember. But this will be $20.99. This is the 10th anniversary of Joshua Williamson's breakout hit horror series. Jackson Winters is one of the greatest criminal masterminds to ever live, except he's rotting in jail after his last doomed score. When a filthy rich collector breaks Winters out, he's tasked with putting together an elite team of paranormal experts to do the impossible: steal a ghost from a haunted house. This includes Ghosted, issues 1 through 20. So it's Image, and it's a 20 issue trade paperback. So it's kind of a compendium style, I would say. Captain Marvel, the Saga of Carol Danvers trade paperback. So these saga books from Marvel have been like thicker trade paperbacks. This one's $20.99. And it looks like it includes the Kelly Sue DeConnick era. Includes Captain Marvel 1 through 8, plus issue 17, and The Life of Captain Marvel 1 through 5. So you're looking at about 14 issues there. And coming out just in time for the movie. All right, then. Just purchased the FF Omni Volume 1 for the Nick and Dent section on CGN. Thanks for the info on the Omni. Yes, and I hope you enjoy. Let me know if you, when you get it in, if you read it and you like it. Always like to hear people's thoughts whenever they, especially if they purchase it on my recommendation. I want to make sure that I did right by them. But those are great comics. I really do love them. I stand by those. Probably one of my favorite omnibuses. And like I said, Fantastic Four is my favorite Marvel comic. So, and I truly do think it's one of the best Fantastic Four runs ever. Like I put up Lee Kirby, of course, as number one. But I put John Byrne up there. And then probably the only thing I'd say that could compete with it would be like the Mark Waid run with dang it, who's the artist on that? Drawing a blank. I know he's sadly passed away. But he did like the Mike Waringo. That's who it is. He was a great artist too, though. I was asking because I've bothered Volume 1 of FF by Hickman, and I'm looking forward to Wade Omni next year. Yeah, Hickman's run's really great too. If you want the run that takes place right before that, it's the Mark Miller run that just came out in omnibus format earlier this year. But that one I wouldn't. The Mark Miller run, it's all right. It's not terrible. I wouldn't put my stamp of approval that you have to buy it by any means. But Hickman's great. His FF is great. Wade's amazing. Mark Waid, he really gets those characters for sure. For modern runs, Hickman and Waid, I think, are the best. And then, Lee Kirby and Byrne are like the best of the classic eras. So yeah, you have some great Fantastic Four reading ahead of you. I like it. Ranger Stranger Volume 1 trade paperback by Scout Comics. The new Christmas classic is back in print. When Mrs. Claus dies in a tragic toy accident, Santa vows to make all those little brats pay. That premise, it'll be $19.99 for this book. And it appears like this is not for children, but it could be entertaining. Another book I'm going to guess it's not for children is Zombie Tramp. Deluxe Edition Volume 1. Trade paperback by Still Ill Comics. Dan Mendoza is the artist and writer on this. Celebrating over 13 years of guts and grime, Still Ill Comics is happy to release this deluxe edition of Zombie Tramp Volume 1. 128-page square-bound book contains the entire origin story of Janie Bell, plus never-before-seen gallery containing script, sketches, and concept character designs. Firefly, all new Firefly, The Gospel According to Jane, Volume 2, hardcover by Boom Entertainment. David Booher and Vincenzo Federici are the creative team on this. It'll be 1874, and includes all new Firefly 5 through 8. Boom Entertainment's been really keeping the Firefly franchise alive. So here's the next volume of that. Okay. Samurai Doggy trade paperback. 1874 for this one is by Aftershock Comics. Chris Tex and Santos are the creative team on this one. During the Fourth War of the Sun, a small dog named Doggy experienced an irreplaceable trauma. His mother was brutally murdered, and his 8 brothers, still puppies, were kidnapped by a mysterious man. It's 192 pages, includes issues 1 through 6. JoJo 6251 World of Hirohiko Araki hardcover. I don't think this is the main line, is it? This is from Viz. Changed the face of manga forever when he created. Sorry, let's see. Yeah, so this is like a coffee table type book. It has illustrations, fold up posters, behind the scenes stuff of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. If you're a fan of that, or if you're a fan of the anime, I say you can pick this up and look at some cool artwork and stuff. I know my nephew is a huge fan of, I think, the anime and manga he's gotten into. So 1873 for this one, and it is a hardcover. Always Matt, a tribute to Matthew Shepard, hardcover. It was 1839. Abrams Comic Arts is putting this one out. Leslie Newman and Brian Bridigan are the creative team. 1839, did I say that? A poignant tribute to the life of Matthew Shepard and his legacy in the fight for LGBTQ plus rights, published on the 25th anniversary of the formation of the Matthew Shepard Foundation. Always Matt is an emotional yet ultimately hopeful look at the progress that's been made. This looks like a really great biography. I was gonna say memoir, but I think that has to be self-written, right? Carnage Reigns trade paperback for $17.99. This is the current run of Carnage. Alex Pactendale is the writer, and Julio Otto is the artist on this one. $17.99. It's going to include Carnage Reigns Alpha, Miles Morales 6 through 7, Carnage 13 through 14, Red Goblin 5, and Carnage Reigns Omega. Rated teen. I guess Carnage Reigns is the big story happening in the current Carnage comics. I saw this in just seeing the small thumbnail. I thought it was a Gilbert Hernandez book, but it's not. It's Blackbird by Drawn and Quarterly, and I'm super intrigued by this. I want to pick it up. Lawrence Lindell is the writer and artist on this. Here's the premise. Black, weird, awkward, and proud of it. Welcome to the club. Tired of feeling like you don't belong? Join the club. It's called The Section. You'd think a spot to chill, chat, and find community would be much easier to come by for the nerdy queer punks. But when 4 longtime bookish BFFs, Leica, Amor, Lala, and Tony can't find what they need, they take matters into their own hands and create a space where they can be 100% who they are, black, queer, and weird. So it's like a kids gang book of kids that are just struggling to fit in, which I feel like we can all relate at some point to having that struggle, in maybe different ways, but still. So it could be an entertaining book. I'm going to try that one out. Can never go wrong with Carnage. Yeah, I'm not up to date on Carnage currently, but because I know Ram V and Al Ewing were kind of like spearheading the symbiote side of Marvel with the Venom storyline, but now Ram V is exclusive with DC, so I think it's just Al Ewing. But I've heard Al Ewing's run's really starting to get exciting. People are saying people are starting to compare it to his Immortal Hulk run, which is exciting to me. Fist of the North Star, Volume 10 hardcover, which I still need to pick up Volume 9. I'm behind on that. This is the Bronson and the Tetsuo Hara manga, which is fantastic. These hardcovers are beautiful. They're like one and a half. They don't include like this series originally released in tankobons, like the small trade paperbacks, and each of these hardcovers includes like 1.5 of those volumes. I've heard people say there's going to be like 14 or 15 volumes total for the series. But the important thing is that this series has never been collected in its entirety in English. But Viz Media seems to be pretty committed to this this format. And they pumped out already volume 10. I'm sure the other ones have been solicited as well. And it's really been a fun series. Like it's definitely like your mindless action comic. You're not going to get any sort of like Watchmen deep sort of reading in this. But sometimes you need to sit back. It is super hyper violent too, so be forewarned of that. But I love it. It's super entertaining and it's a good kind of mindless read. You don't have to think too hard about it, and the artwork's amazing. So Fist of the North Star is great. Dracula X Frankenstein trade paperback. This is from Fair Square Comics. We got Michelle Monteleone, Giulio Antonio Gualtieri. Sorry, I'm really butchering this. Fabrizio Dogorides and Francesca de Stena. I probably butchered all of those. I really apologize. $14.99 for this one. It's 2 legendary monsters, 1 scary volume. Straight out of Italy. So this is an Italian comic book. Comes this bold new take on 2 classic monster stories, Fumetti style. Okay. So it's Fumetti style, which means like photographs put together in like a sequential art form. It'll be $14.99. So it's interesting. Or is it just, although Fumetti I think means Italian comics. So maybe it's not photographs. Fumetti is like that one thing where it's like the word that people just use for a certain type of comic. But now that I'm thinking about it, if it's an Italian comic, it could just be an Italian comic. Somebody look into that for me and let me know. It was a task to follow what Donny Cates did with Venom, but Al Jung is a good writer. I agree. Al Jung is great. I've loved everything I've read by him. And I also agree that it's hard to follow in Donny Cates' footsteps. I mean, his run on Venom is probably, maybe the most iconic Venom run, like Venom ongoing run, like not counting like the early stuff with McFarlane where he was just a character in a Spider-Man book, like the actual Venom ongoing series. Donny Cates might have the most iconic. I mean, I know Colin Bunn had his big run that people liked a lot, but I feel like Donny Cates kind of surpassed that. So yeah, definitely a tough act to follow. I Am Batman, Volume 3, The Right Question hardcover for $14.99. This will be a standard size hardcover. John Ridley is the writer on this one, and Christian Duce, Carl Mostert, Tom Derenick, and Eduardo Pansica are the artists on that. It includes I Am Batman 11 through 18. That's the Batman where Lucius Fox's son is Batman. Harley Quinn, Volume 4, Task Force XX hardcover. This is also standard size hardcover. This is the Stephanie Phillips run, who one of my good friends, Omni Dog, Jess Bragg, he is a huge fan of Harley Quinn, and he's been loving the Stephanie Phillips run. So as a huge Harley Quinn fan, to put his stamp of approval on this run in particular, I feel like sends a good message. So include Harley Quinn 18 through 21 and the 2022 annual. DC versus Vampires All Out War Part 2 hardcover. This is by Matthew Rosenberg, Alex Pecknadel, and then Pasquale Qualano is the artist for $14.99. This includes All Out War 4 through 6 and DC versus Vampires Killers. Mostly trade paperback. Put up by Boom Entertainment. Oh, Rob Guillory is the writer on this, but not the artist. The artist is Sam Lotfi. Rob Guillory, I love his artwork. His story is good too, though. He wrote and drew Farmhand, which is really amazing series for Image. Kind of a horror, ecological horror kind of comic. It's really cool. But he's also the artist on what's that series called? Dang it. It's also a big Image series, probably bigger than Farmhand even. What did he do? Chew. Chew is the name of the series. He did before Farmhand. That was real popular. I've never seen him only write a book, though. I've only ever seen him on a comic that he was doing the art for. So it's interesting. $14.99 for this. In the hyper-technological world of the late 21st century, Mosley is a bitter old janitor on a mission. From a higher power to unleash holy hell upon the too-big-to-fail tech gods, can one man bring down the corporate powers who've used their vast influence to oppress an all-too-complacent human race? So it's a futuristic sci-fi story, it sounds like. I've been interested to read the DC versus Godzilla. Yes, that looks awesome. I love wacky stories like that. Like, you mix in DC superheroes with Godzilla and King Kong, like, sign me up. Like, again, those are just like those fun, kind of mindless stories that you just want to see awesome artwork and cool fights. I mean, I love kaiju comics as well, so I'm in for that. Speaking of Godzilla, though, It's not out in collected editions yet, but Godzilla. What's the name of it? It's by Jake Smith. Jake Smith's the artist on it. It's like it just. I think issue 2 is dropping next week. War for Humanity. It's the name of the series, and his artwork is amazing. Let me show it off. Actually, let's see if I can pull it up here. Okay, so here is Jake Smith's Instagram. I just want to show him off because he, I think, is like an up and coming cartoonist that I feel like everyone needs to have their eye on. Just last week, we have this in stock right now too. He released a Blood Force Trauma, which is what this cover is from. It's about like a kid that's really into fighting games entering the realm of actual fighting in the future. So it's like a bunch of future tech and stuff. Just fun artwork. Here's a piece he did on He-Man. Oh, it looks like a cover he did. But his Godzilla, though, his artwork's just amazing. Like just so full of color and life and just so fun looking. But he's doing this is the cover for issue 3 that comes out for Godzilla War for Humanity. And here's another Godzilla piece by him. Just super amazing artwork. And he's a super young guy too. So I really do think he's an up and coming artist. Everyone should have their eye on him. But if you want to try his work out in collected form, we do have Blood Force Trauma in stock right now. It just came out this week. So I'm gonna do that. Oh, it's gonna ruin this, isn't it? Present back. And then we're back here. All right, Tally, Daughter of the Moon, Volume 2 trade paperback. This will be $13.99 by Oni Press. Sauria is the writer and artist on that. Tally is a summoner, a nearly extinct people, hunted by those who fear their mysterious powers. So it's sort of like X-Men, right? People have powers and people fear them and they hunt them down. But it looks more inspired by manga, which I love. So that's volume 2 of that series. If you tried that out, let me know. That looks interesting. Speaking of Donny Cates, here's what he's been working on lately. This is Vanish Volume 2, the Donny Cates and Ryan Stegman series over at Image that Donny Cates and Ryan Stegman both left the Venom book to go do this. This is their new creator-owned series. This is Volume 2, which includes issues 5 through 8. That'll be $13.99. Star Wars, The High Republic Adventures, Phase 2, Volume 1, trade paperback. This is put up by Dark Horse Comics. Daniel Jose Older and Tony Bruno are the creative team on this. And this is because if you're wondering why Dark Horse is doing a Star Wars book, Marvel has farmed out the rights to do all ages Star Wars comics to Dark Horse. I think IDW did a little bit before, but now it's with Dark Horse. So these are all ages Star Wars comics that they get to do. And this includes issues 1 through 4. Big Ethel Energy, Volume 3, trade paperback. This is from Archie Comics. Carol Brown Ahmed is the writer, and Siobhan Keenan is the artist. If I ever butcher someone's name and you know how to pronounce it, by all means, correct me. I want to make sure I'm getting people's names right. I hate butchering them. $13.49 for this, though, and it is the Volume 3 of Big Ethel Energy. Bulls of Beacon Hill. This is by Aftershock. Steve Orlando is the writer, and Andy McDonald is the artist. Dr. Christopher Bolt has everything he ever wanted: a successful career as a surgeon, supportive and loving boyfriend, and an overload of hype on his rumored run for Boston City Council. But there's one problem. It's all held up by a lie. For years, Chris has been hiding in plain sight, desperate not to be connected to his father, Orrin Page, one of Boston's most notorious gangsters. All right, so it looks like a political drama. I like that. It would be $13.49 for that. Then it looks like Ahoy Comics has The Gimmick by Joanne Stair and Elena Gogau. $13.49 for this. And it is about pro wrestling champ Shane Bryant's ring persona. His gimmick is forgettable. He's a nice guy, but his secret is more colorful. He has super strength. When he accidentally punches his fist straight through his opponent's brain in front of 24 million horrified viewers, everything, or 2.4 million horrified viewers, everything changes. Now Shane needs to new gimmick and a new life too. So it's pro wrestler with with superpowers. That sounds awesome. Vineyard trade paperback for $13.49. Cosmic Detective. This is a book I highly recommend. This will probably be my pick of the week. The Tater Talks Comics pick of the week, where I pick something a little bit under the radar. So this is a jam comic. David Rubin does all the artwork, and his artwork is the star of this comic, even though the two writers are probably bigger names. But really, David Rubin's artwork is amazing. But Jeff Lemire and Matt Kent, who are best friends, took turns writing this. So they each one would write a page and then pass it off to the next guy, and the next guy to pick up from there in improv style and continue the story. And then he'd pass it on a couple pages later back to Jeff, and then he passed it back to Matt, and back and forth until they get to the conclusion. The only thing they started with is the premise, and then they went back and forth GM comic style. So that in itself was interesting to me, and I love David Rubin's artwork. He did the artwork on Ether by Matt Kent. But I think this is David Rubin's best art of his career. He really took it up another step above his previous work I had seen. But the premise here is it's like Blade Runner meets The Eternals by Jack Kirby. So it's like this detective that's investigating a god that was murdered. So think of a Blade Runner, detective style, and that kind of ilk, solving a mystery in Jack Kirby's Eternals. It's kind of how I pitch it, my elevator pitch. Road Trip to Hell trade paperback. $11.99 for this one by Scout Comics. Nicole DeAndrea is the writer, and Monica McCagney is the artist on this one. And it's another Christmas book, so buy this in time for Christmas. Lucy Goodshoe is an idealistic young elf from the North Pole inner city. Just landed her dream job assistant to Santa Claus, the CEO, founder, and face of the multi-billion-dollar global toy manufacturing and distribution empire known as North Pole Industries. So it looks like a different take on Santa Claus. Robin, Volume 1, Mystery at the Marina. Trade paperback. This would be DC Comics, obviously. Megan Fitzmartin is the writer, and Riley Rosmo is the artist. I like Riley Rosmo's artwork a lot. He also has a very fun style. $11.99 for this one, and it includes the Tim Drake Special #1 and Tim Drake Robin 1 through 6 for that. I'm sure you already passed it, but I'm looking forward to the Avengers Omnibus Volume 5 next week. Can't wait till they announce 6. How many volumes of the Avengers do you think they can do? Maybe 10 like Conan. Well, I will say, it seems like Conan really put into Marvel's mind that they can do long-running omnibus series with multiple volumes. With that said, I think Volume 5 is still the longest-running Marvel omnibus series we've had besides Conan. So I think Ultimate Spider-Man's up to 5. Avengers is up to 5, obviously. I'm trying to think. X-Men has only done Volume 5. But the X-Men is where I'm going to make my point here, because X-Men, we have the entire Claremont run collected now in omnibus format. Because after Volume 5, you'd go to Mutant Massacre and Inferno, Fallen Mutants, all that stuff, which has all been collected in an oversized format. However, Omar over at Near American Condition, who I do social media for Near American Condition as well. He has let us know that Marvel has said they will be doing a Volume 6 X-Men omnibus that will double dip with Mutant Massacre. So basically what they're going to do is those are event omnibuses. The Inferno omnibus, Mutant Massacre, Fall Mutants, those are all event omnibuses that will include all of the New Mutants and X-Force and all that stuff, and X-Factor. However, Marvel will continue on just collecting the Uncanny X-Men issues in its own line. So there will be a Volume 6 that includes just the X-Men stuff, Volume 7, and so forth. And just knowing that they had that plan in mind, and apparently they've mapped it all out, sounds like they're really into the idea of continuing these on. So things like, I think we're going to see a lot of these omnibuses get remapped and printed with new name dropper. Yes, I know Omar. He's got 80,000 subscribers on YouTube. He's famous. But they're gonna be remapped. So like one example too, I'd give like Spectacular Spider-Man Volume 1 came out last year. That leads right up directly to the Roger Stern omnibus. However, if they were to do a Volume 2 of Spectacular Spider-Man omnibus, I think they're just going to kind of push the Roger Stern one out of the way and just continue on with the Spectacular Spider-Man series. So the same thing like I just described with Mutant Massacre. I'm trying to think. And then I know Amazing Spider-Man Volume 6 could also kind of eat up what was in the Roger Stern omnibus as well. But that's what I think the plan is. I think the plan is to continue on by volumes. So how many Avengers ones can they do? I mean, they can do all the way up to like 20 in the 20s all the way through the Heroes Reborn series. Will they? I don't know. But I don't think it's crazy to think that there will be a volume 10 eventually. And one series that I'm waiting for is Fantastic Four, because volume 4 of that took us to issue 125, which is like the first 23-ish issues after Jack Kirby left. So I'm excited for the eventual volume 6 or no, the eventual volume 5 and 6 and 7 of that, because I have not read a lot of those issues between Lee Kirby and John Byrne. You have like runs in there by like Marv Wolfman, George Perez is in there, and that's all stuff I've wanted to read before, but I haven't. So I'm excited for those to eventually get omnibuses, but I think they all will eventually, is my point. It sounds like Marvel's pretty committed to that. Thor by Donny Cates, Volume 6, Blood of the Fathers, $11.99 for this. Is this the last Donny Cates Thor? Issues 31 through 35. I can't remember what issue Donny Cates left Thor on, but it was around this. This is either the last volume of Donny Cates Thor or there will be one more. But Nick Klein is the artist, and he's awesome. Batgirl Year 1, trade paperback, 2023 edition. So it's been reprinted in a number of formats, but this is the trade paperback one in the latest printing, because it has been out of print for a while. Marcos Martin and Alvaro Lopez are the artists. Scott Beatty and Chuck Dixon are the writers. And includes the entire Batgirl Year 1 through 9. Silver Surfer Ghostlight trade paperback. This is the new Silver Surfer miniseries by John Jennings and Valentine De Landro. It'll be $10.79 for this one. And it includes the entire miniseries, I believe. Yeah, Ghostlight 1 through 5. Which I think that's like the third miniseries of Silver Surfer lately. Which I always... As someone that's like really into omnibuses and like thick trade paperbacks and stuff, like I don't know that they'll ever collect all of those Silver Surfer miniseries together. So I kind of feel like I need to get like the thin trade paperbacks. I don't know. Star Wars Volume 6, Quests of the Force trade paperback for $10.79. This is by Charles Sewell and Madabek Musabekov. And this includes issues 31 through 36. Plus-sized Elf Second Helping, Volume 1 graphic novel for $10.49. Even Dogs Go to the Other Worlds, Volume 2 graphic novel for $10.49. Speaking of Thor Omni by Jason Aaron, Volume 1 and 2. I'm considering as well. I believe Volume 2 comes out later at a later date. Yes, Volume 2 is not out yet. Volume 1, I don't know if we have in stock still. If we do, then I recommend them. I've only read Volume 1. I've not read what the material in Volume 2 yet. But it is really good. It's like, especially the artwork. It reminds me of, if you've read like Heavy Metal Magazine from like its heyday with like guys like Moebius and Richard Corbin and Juan Jimenez, like that kind of art style. Like that's what kind of the art style that I think of with that Thor run by Jason Aaron. So it really did feel kind of like a different Marvel comic, like an epic one. And I really enjoyed it. So if you're wanting a modern Thor run, for sure. I think that's the thing with Thor is like some people, well, a lot of people don't like the Silver Age Thor because of all the Shakespearean kind of dialogue that Stan Lee wrote for it, which I understand. But this modern Thor runs, I think Jason Aaron, you can't go wrong. So if you want to try modern Thor for sure, I would recommend that run. Reincarnated as a Dragon Hatchling, Volume 4 for $9.74. That's another manga. We have a lot of manga this week. Interviews with Monster Girls, Volume 11, also $9.74. Urban Legends graphic novel for $9.74. This looks like it's by Humanoids, Paul Downs and Michael Yates. It looks like it's a all ages graphic novel. Yeah, it looks like an all ages one, but it doesn't say so. But it's from Humanoids, which I don't know. I've not known them to do graphic novels. Surely thou jest. Yes, that's how they speak in Silver Age Thor. That's a good impression. Monica Rambeau Photon. So Monica Rambeau is going to be having a big part in the upcoming Marvels movie. Comes out on November 10th. Eve Ewing is the writer on this one. Artist is Luca Maresca and Ivan Fiorelli. $9.59 for this, and includes Monica Rambeau Photon 1 through 5. So a recent miniseries that came out. And then last but not least, we have one more book. X-Men X vs. Wolverine trade paperback by Fred Van Lente, Andrea Di Vito. So they've been releasing these Marvelverse books, which are like these great introduction. They're like digest size, and they're great like introduction paperbacks to hand to new readers. So if you're like a family member or friend that saw the latest Marvel movie, let's say Guardians of the Galaxy. Well, they released a Star-Lord Marvelverse book. So you get that, and it has like a compilation of issues from Star-Lord to kind of introduce them to, the comics language as well as the comics version of Star-Lord. This one is for Wolverine. This will be $6.99, and it includes Wolverine First Class 1, 5, 17, 21, and Wolverine and Wolfpack number 1. So it's not going to be a straightforward like chronological collection. It is really just like a greatest hits type deal, but it's for new readers, so they don't get bogged down by having to read like a 60-page omnibus or something for their first comic. But that's it. That's all the books coming out next week. I'm going to go through my plugs. Feel free to drop any more comments or questions. I'll get to those after my plugs. So I'll do that before I close out completely. But follow us on Twitter at CheapGN. Same thing for Instagram, CheapGN. Search for us on Facebook. Just search for Cheap Graphic Novels on there. We have a weekly newsletter that comes out every Monday afternoon that'll tell you about the books coming out next week. You also want to sign up for that email list because it will tell you about any sales we have going on. Give this video a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already. We do this show every week as well. Typically Thursdays at noon, but this week was a little funny, and we had to do it a little bit later. We have one more comment. It looks like I feel that that is the direction they should take the Thor in the MCU. Love and Thunder wasn't the worst, but it wasn't that great either. I agree. I didn't think Love and Thunder was as bad as most people said it was. It definitely had its flaws. It definitely was not like Thor Ragnarok is one of my favorite MCU movies. I love that movie. Love and Thunder was definitely a step down. I do agree they do need to take the character in a different direction. I think Thor Ragnarok had started adding a lot of the comedic elements, which were present in the first one, even like the whole man out of place kind of stuff. Like they really played into that comedy. With Thor Ragnarok, people were like, that's a funny one. But there's a lot of deep emotional scenes in that movie too that I think people that think it's just a funny movie kind of missed out on. But then Love and Thunder really amped up the comedy, I think. And so I think they need to gear it back down and make him more of a serious badass maybe and kind of reconfigure that. So I agree. I'd like to see that. But that's it. It looks like everyone's got all the comments out. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, Sandwichism. Thank you, Richard, for joining me tonight. I really appreciate that. And I hope to see you guys next week. And I hope to see more of you guys next week. So make sure you share this with all your friends and let them know what we're doing. Keep reading comics.